Hi and welcome. As promised, I'd do a bonus video if we managed to get more than 3 people make a contribution to the channel, and we did. I did say I'd do it over the weekend, but I just simply didn't have the time, and this video is probably going to be a lengthy one, and I didn't want to rush it because I think there's something really here that I want to talk to you about. I've talked a few times about this topic. I'll just come straight out with it. We're talking about it in this video, the universal equation. It's not a very difficult mathematical equation, but it's been my view for over 5 years that it's very special and has a place in pretty much everything we observe and we understand today. And if we can grasp more on this language that this universal code seems to show us, it is a binary code of 9s and 0s. I'm going to get into it in a minute. I'm going to show you how to do the equation, but I think it's more important than even I know. And the reason why we're looking at these scientists right now is because I believe that they knew about this equation. It would be difficult for them not to have run in at some point in their lives into this equation, that it doesn't really seem to matter what numbers you put in this equation, you're only going to get 2 possibilities out of it. I'm not sure that I've ever came up with another equation quite like it as this one. I'm sure that these famous scientists here knew about it, but they don't seem to have been recalled for mentioning the equation at all. I haven't heard many other people talking about this equation, so it could be just something that a few people may have pondered on and not took it any further, not realised possibly its importance. And I think it has a universal importance. I have given it the name the universal equation because everything within this universe can be equated into this equation. If we can change things into numbers for the shape of a block or a cube, we can give it a mathematical number. Then we can put that mathematical number into the equation, and we can get out, one of 2 possibilities, a 0 or a 9. Like I say, it's very similar to a binary code. It might be in the future recognised as a universal binary code, which is consisting of a huge program which the universe is running currently. So before we begin, I want to make a very special thanks to those people that supported the channel over the weekend. You guys know who you are, and I can only say kudos to you for your support. You know the importance of the pole shift news just as much as I do, and I think you share the same enthusiasm, and I think that's why you do what you do, and that really is why I put the time and effort in as well. So thank you. So let's get on with it then. Well, I think this universal equation is the daddy or the father of all equations. Now, like I said, I'm going to show you the equation. It's a very simple one, and you can impress other people with it if you like, because they're going to be left baffled. How come you always get into results no matter which numbers you use? But before we do, the reason why I think this is the daddy or the father of equations is because all the other famous equations, whatever answer they equate, we'll just put that answer straight into the universal equation, and we'll be able to reduce it down to just the 2 binary numbers in the universal equation, which are just a 9 or a 0. And I'll show you both examples of how you would get those results, either a 9 or a 0. But as you can see, all other equations, such as this one here, the golden ratio, you'll find it used in Greek architecture. You'll also find it in nature. Another one of these, which I'll quickly show you some patterns of, Fibonacci sequence, just so that you get an idea of all these other equations that, scientists have already found, by no coincidence, nature following almost a mathematical approach to creating. This is very important, because a lot of people would simply just say, oh, well, there's nothing to it. It's just a coincidence. No. If you're the sort of person that believes the moon covering up the sun is nothing more than a coincidence, then you're probably not going to enjoy this video. Because, if you accept things like that, which the possibilities are mind-boggling. I mean, for it to be the case that the moon covers the sun, despite the fact the moon is 400 times closer and 400 times smaller than the sun, and yet it covers it perfectly in the sky at the vantage point of ourselves on the earth. If you think that that's a coincidence, then, I think you're here a little bit too early, or you haven't come to that point in life where you're searching for answers. And I certainly think that this is going to open up those people's minds a little bit more to, something else taking place. Now, we've all heard, the expression, there is a universal language, and that is maths. I quite agree. Doesn't matter what beings out there. Me for one, I do believe in life on other planets. There has to be. It's just, impossible for it not to be. The place is just so vast. And the other thing is that there is repetitive behaviour within this universe, just like this equation shows us. And for that reason, there is life. There is intelligent life. And I, for one, believe it looks not too dissimilar to ourselves. I believe that there is a process where once a planet has the ability to create life, then it is no different to other life on another planet. So yeah, we have thousands and thousands of different species on this planet, but if there was another planet somewhere in this universe with life on it, and there is, to my belief, then it will look the same as what life does on this planet. And why I say that is because, we seem to have very similar galaxies. Within those galaxies we have suns which are very similar in nature, and the similarities are all the same. Yes, they're individual, but they're not just one-offs. It's like we've not yet to see a rainbow coloured sun somewhere in the universe. What I mean by that is, you've got rings of different colours. We haven't discovered one of those yet. What we have discovered is lots of yellow ones, lots of blue ones, and they're indications of temperature cooling. So, I don't want to digress off the subject too much. I just want to say that, to me, and I think to a lot of other people, that when they start to ponder what's going on with the moon and the sun, accepting the fact that, okay, there's something else here, there's our vantage point from this planet, that when we look up during eclipse, the moon covers the disk of the sun perfectly. It cannot be by coincidence. We could throw planets into a solar system millions and millions of times, and we would never get the same anomaly as what we observe with, an eclipse. So there we go. So okay, let's start then with the universal equation. Let me just give you a quick way of, using this equation, so you can show others if you want to. So we start off then with the first set of numbers, which is the top set. As you can see, they've just been reversed on the bottom. So choose a number from 0 to 9, and as many of these numbers as you want. And what we're going to do is we're just going to reverse the order, like we did on the second column. So we started with 1787, and then we reversed these numbers to give us 7871. And then what we're going to do is take the small number 1787 away from 7871, and we're going to write that number down underneath it. So now we take the small number away from the larger number, and the answer we get is 6084 or 6084. And what we do is we break them numbers down into individual numbers and add them up as we've done here. And what you get is 6 plus 0 plus 8 plus 4, and the answer is 18. And then we just break it down to reduce the numbers to 1 again in the same way. So the 18 then becomes 1 plus 8, and we get the first of the universal binary number, which is a 9. There is another way in which we obtain the 0, and I'll just quickly go through that. But if you want to try it, you can use as many different numbers as you want. You're going to get the same answer. You're just making, it more longer the more numbers you add. You will get the same answers as long as you reduce it down in the same way I've done here. So we end up with an equation then that gives us one of two possibilities, either a 9 or a 0. Now I've just strung a random set of numbers of 9s and 0s together so that you can see we end up with like a binary set of numbers. We can assign an on to a 9 and an off to a 0 the very same way we do in the binary systems we use in computing, digital. Zeros off, or it could be a flash of light for a 9, or, if we're talking fibre optics, that sort of thing. We end up with a binary system. But I don't think it's any coincidence that this universe has chosen a 9, whereas we've chosen a 9 on this planet. The other thing is, I don't think it's any coincidence that only in the last 50 years of us understanding how to use binary for applications in the modern technologies that we have today, and at the same time the discovery of such an equation coming out. I think it's for all a specific reason. I think everything in its place, and when things are ready to be learned, I reckon that they are put forward. So it's like the analogy of not running before you learn to walk with this. The other thing is that it's by no coincidence, I think, we have 9 planets in our solar system. I also think it's no coincidence that there's 360 degrees in a circle. 3 plus 6 plus 0 is the 9. The headings on the compass are 90 degrees east. 9 plus 0 is 9. 180 degrees south. 1 plus 8 plus 0 is 9. 270 degrees west. 2 plus 7 plus 0 is the 9. And 360 degrees north. 3 plus 6 plus the 0 is the 9. And again, we can look at the planet and the mechanics of this planet. We'll find that the polar jet stream's at 30 degrees. The subtropical jet stream is at 60 degrees, and the equatorial region is at 90 degrees. Again, I don't think there's any coincidence, and I could go on and on and on with these. Again, there's no coincidence. There's no coincidence that we see the Fibonacci and the golden ratio turning up in nature. Again, no coincidence. There's a purpose for this, and I believe, that those scientists at the beginning of this video completely understood it, and I'm not sure why they never mentioned it publicly. You've got to think about that. Why didn't they do that? So yes, like I said, I believe some of the greatest figures in our history have actually come across this, but never really publicly mentioned it or showed anybody the equation. Yet I'm pretty sure that these people knew the significance of it. Here's a quote from Nikola Tesla that you're looking at. If you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6 and 9, then you would have the key to the universe. Nikola Tesla was a man that changed the world, and a brilliant engineer. He was more commonly known for the production or the invention of alternating currents, something I've played with myself. And what it was that actually Nikola Tesla discovered with alternating current was something else. Electromagnetic frequency. That's what he was generating with the alternating current. DC isn't really a frequency. DC is quite something else, and you'll hear other people talk about DC in different ways. Now, I mean, just to give you, for instance, you do get some very strange results with DC and alternating DC. Now, there's a thing, you can get alternating DC. I've built motors that generate sparks of DC voltage, only it alternates. Now, you're thinking, well, how can you get DC to alternate? Well, you can do it. If you rotate a magnet across a spark gap, you get alternating DC. So you get a direct current sparking at a frequency, so it's alternating. And you can increase the speed of this alternating DC, and you get some pretty strange effects off it. For instance, with a 9-volt battery, I could probably knock out, quite a few of the neighbours' TVs, as I did do with a similar motor, playing it. So, on a very crude scale, you can build a frequency jammer that blocks frequency or disrupts frequency with only a 9-volt battery if you want. But I wanted to just introduce some of those people to this channel that have never come across this equation, and just say to them that we shouldn't take everything for granted that we see, such as the eclipsing of the sun. There's something else going on this planet, and you may not be at the point in your life where you're ready to accept it more than a coincidence, but there will be a point, I'm pretty sure, as there is in most of us, a point where we start to ask questions about what is really going on. And through my own examining of this, it seems that there's nothing short than a program being played out. And sometimes I think, well, then there's no escaping fate because it's written. And to give you a good example of that, I was going to show you a Mandelbrot pattern where we reduce things as we go deeper into this pattern, and I think the explanation I've got is satisfying me for this moment, and I can find myself within that pattern, or I can find when I look at the pattern fully expanded out to just the pattern. Let's do it, and I'll talk about some of my thoughts here that I'll share with you guys. So here we have Mandelbrot pattern or Mandelbrot set, and what we can do is just by clicking on it, keep zooming in, but just pay attention to the pattern that we've got here at the start. If we just say that this is the body and here's a little head with a little spike on the top, what we could easily be looking at is the entire universe. It's a very powerful equation. I'm sure even the supercomputers struggle to keep going on and on and on with this equation because it just goes into infinity if you have the CPU processing power. Mine, I'm pretty sure after about 64 magnifications, the CPU on the hard drive is screaming because it has magnified that much. But we'll just go into this pattern here, and what we quickly see at this point of the pattern is another head, another body, and another head. So we started off with the analogy we was looking at the universe. Perhaps now we are moving towards one of the galaxies, and if we just carry on zooming in, here we go, another head and another body, another head, and the spike on the top. We're zooming into probably a star in that solar system. Sorry, not solar system, in that galaxy. We could keep zooming in, and I'll center the pattern, till we do, use the analogy that now we have arrived within a solar system, and, we're going to keep zooming in. And all the time, things are changing slightly, but the pattern is remaining the same. We're probably zoomed in on that solar system now, and we're probably looking at a planet. And if we keep zooming in on that planet, again, we've got virtually the same shape. If we keep zooming in on that region and then bring the pattern in, we could arrive quite simply on the surface of the Earth. Keep zooming in to a particular point on here, say here. We're on the surface now, we're on one of the continents now. We're zooming in, and we're in a city. We keep zooming in on the city. We're going to start to see streets. I know that you're not seeing this. I'm just using this as an analogy. We're going to start to see streets, and then we're going to start to make out very gradually vehicles in the streets, and then at the sides of the vehicles and along the pedestrian walks, we're going to start seeing people, and then you can hear the CPU probably on the computer now because we've zoomed in that much. We're going to start to see people, and then we can zoom in even more on that person. We can start looking at their DNA. Let's start looking at even smaller parts of the atomic structure now, and we keep zooming in, and we start coming into the fundamental particles. It appears that with the universal equation and binary numbers, whether we're using the binary numbers that we're accustomed to, the zeros and ones or the nines and zeros, we arrive at the same place as what this computer program has done. We can infinitely go in and in and in. And this is something that the ESA were trying to do when they was looking for the boson-Higgs particle. They was trying to find, even smaller subatomic particles. But if we understand that there's another route to obtain the information, because it's not just the observation of these subatomic particles. What it is the information. That's what we're really after. And if there's another route of getting to the information, such as what the universal equation shows us, is that we're going to be looking at not something too different to what I've just showed us in this Mandelbrot pattern. We could continue going deeper and deeper into this psychedelic pattern if the computer had the processing power. It just clearly doesn't, and it doesn't like it very much even at this magnitude. But if we just zoom back out, you'll see how far we've actually come. And it's my way of dealing, with the concept of the universe, how large it is. It might not be a very good example for yourselves, but it certainly is for me. And like I say, we can zoom back out until we see the universe as one. Maybe there are multiple universes. If we was to carry on sweeping left, we'd come across another Mandelbrot set, and we could do the same again. But what my point is here is what I said originally at this beginning of this video. If there was life on other planets, it probably wouldn't be too much dissimilar to ourselves if the universe was running a program to create things. The other thing is this, and this is where I'm going to leave this video here. I'd like to, if you're interested, talk more about this subject, but I'm going to leave it here with this because I think it's important. If this universe is operating on a binary system, then that takes some form of logic to do such a thing. And for that very reason, then, it must be conscious. Yes, indeed. I'm going to leave you with that. And I want to again thank you to those people. Big thanks to those people that supported the channel. And I hope you enjoyed this bonus version of this video, and perhaps, I know it was a deviation from the pole shift. We'll get back onto that hopefully this weekend. And, I'll leave you with those thoughts, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it, as always. Bye for now.